The Switch 2 has been out for a little bit now, and that's given me a lot of time to think about how just not excited I was about the games that came out with this console. I mean, I can't say I'm disappointed with this launch lineup, but I also can't say that I am or ever really was excited about it. There's quite a bit of new stuff to get into, like new games and new content for games that are already out, but I still just kind of feel weird, I guess, about this lineup. So let's talk about it. So I want to start off by going over the completely brand new games, and of course we have the new Mario Kart. From what I've played and heard so far from friends and a lot of people on the internet, Mario Kart World is a pretty solid game overall. It's just the open world part of the game that's a little lackluster, which I can't say I'm surprised about. It's a cool idea, but I still think this open world aspect to a Mario Kart game is pretty out of place. I'm excited to get into this game more when I actually get my own Switch 2, and all I really have to complain about personally is just some parts of the art style and animation that look a little funky to me. This isn't that big of a deal though, and I'll probably just get used to it when I actually own the game anyways. There's really not a whole lot to say about this game that hasn't already been said. It's a new Mario Kart game, and I think it was a really good idea to release it alongside a new console. A game that wasn't a good idea to release, or at least release with a price tag, was the Switch 2 Welcome Tour. It's exactly what it sounds like, a paid tech demo. The only thing that's crazy here is trying to charge money for it. But that's about it for completely new games. There's really only 2 right here on launch. But there are these Switch 2 edition re-releases of a couple games. So the new Switch 2 versions of games are essentially just better optimized versions of games that are already out, and include some new content in the case of games like Kirby and the Forgotten Land, which at the time of recording actually isn't out yet, sadly. Let's talk about the Zelda games that received these new versions though. I remember when all the Switch 2 stuff was just speculation, and some people were all online talking about how Nintendo was going to drop a Breath of the Wild remaster. I thought that was bullshit honestly, but look at where we are now. It's not technically a full remaster, but these games running at a smooth 60 FPS was a pretty big part of Nintendo's advertising of this console over the time leading up to the release. I do have to say though, these games look absolutely great on the Switch 2, especially Tears of the Kingdom. It's nice to see it actually run good compared to the Switch 1 version. It's too bad you have to pay extra for the upgrades though. Unless you have the Switch Online plus expansion pack membership, which if you know me, you would know I'm not the biggest fan of. Along with these new Zelda versions, there's also some free updates for a select few Switch 1 games, which again is nothing too out of the ordinary, just some optimization stuff mostly. It is good to also see Pokemon Scarlet and Violet not running like shit, and with a free update too. How generous. There were quite a few games also ported to the Switch 2 for its launch, which I think I would be more excited about if I haven't already played most of them. Being able to play a couple of my favorite games like Cyberpunk and Yakuza 0 on the go is really cool though, but I do have to say this is a really random lineup of games. Cyberpunk on the Switch does not sound right at all, but it's crazy to see how far this game has come since it released in the state it did. And Yakuza 0 actually got some extra stuff in this director's cut, including this new multiplayer mode, which I'm pretty sad is a Switch 2 exclusive thing for now. But with that said, I wouldn't even consider picking this game up for $70 Canadian when I literally bought it for $12 on my PS5. And same with Cyberpunk. The Ultimate Edition with the DLC is literally more expensive on the Switch 2 than it is on anything else. And still on the topic of prices here, since I'm in Canada, the price of Mario Kart World is in the fucking triple digits. That is diabolical. But along with these games that I'm talking about right now though, there are some other cool titles that I am actually pretty excited made their way onto a Nintendo console. We got stuff like Hitman, which is just a fun-ass series, Fortnite actually running in a playable state, the new Deltarune chapters, Split Fiction, which I've been wanting to play since it dropped, and No Man's Sky, which is a great game especially with friends. But again, out of everything that could have launched with the new Switch, we got a single brand new Nintendo game, a tech demo that you have to pay for, both paid and free updates for older games, and a crazy collection of these third-party titles. Putting it into perspective like that, I've only seen a few console launches with this kind of lineup. And I'm not saying it's good or bad, I mean there are some things that I'm not a fan of here, but it's just kind of strange to me overall. Nintendo also finally dropped GameCube emulation, which is actually really awesome because it's about time Wind Waker is playable on Switch. Along with this initial set of launch titles, there are some things I sorta wish were just available on release. One of the big things is the rest of the updates for the games getting the special Switch 2 editions. I mean really the only games they're re-releasing are Mario Party Jamboree and Kirby, but to be honest, it's just not that exciting to me to be getting a little bit of extra content in the form of paid updates on the games I already paid for. And for Mario Party, a lot of the update is just to show off the new camera feature, which is kinda cool I guess, but is it really that necessary? I can't complain way too much though, especially considering pretty much every Nintendo Switch 1 game is playable on here too. But still, I think I just wanted to see a little more from Nintendo themselves. Considering the Switch 2 has sold a lot already at the time of this video, I have a lot of confidence that it's not going to be another Wii U situation. Hopefully this console continues to get a lot of support and games, because with the power this thing has, it has the potential to maybe be one of, if not the best Nintendo consoles ever. I really love the original Switch, and I think I'll hopefully love my Switch 2 when I pick it up sometime in the near future. But to be honest, the launch of this console reminds me so much of when the PS5 was coming out. For the people who don't know, the PS5 has a lot of games that have two versions, those being the PS4 and the better PS5 version. But unlike the Switch 2, you didn't actually have to pay to upgrade a lot of them. The PS5 also had a free but really good game pre-downloaded onto the system at launch, but that's unrelated. And something else I kinda have a problem with is the whole C button thing. I do think that actual voice chat is long overdue on a Nintendo console, but only making it free for the first year is a really bad idea. When you go to Nintendo's website, it says here that game chat can be enjoyed for free until the 31st of March 2026, which actually isn't even a whole year from launch, but whatever. After this time is up though, the C button on the actual physical controller, along with pretty much any functionality of the $70 camera, will be stuck behind paywalls. That's a really low move no matter how cheap Switch Online is. I also did not actually buy a Switch 2 on launch, and at the time of recording I still don't own one. And why is that? Well yeah, the thing being $600 is one thing, but it's mostly because I thought the launch was really not all that exciting, so I wanted to wait it out for stuff like the new Donkey Kong and all the other shit they release later. I also want new Joy-Con colors, and maybe I'm a little jealous watching everyone else enjoy their fancy new Mario Kart and consistent frame rates on first-party games, but someday I'm gonna look back and realize how good of a financial choice I made. Maybe. But as a rule, I also don't usually like buying things like game consoles on release because sometimes there are a lot of hardware issues that don't get fixed until later. And the Switch 2 is not an exception to this because Joy-Con drift seems like it's here to stay. Considering the Switch 1 is almost a decade old at this point, it definitely was time for an upgrade. It never really was the most powerful console to begin with, but it had some amazing games that I'm really happy are playable on the Switch 2. I'm really looking forward to revisiting a few games and also experiencing some new games for the first time. A new Splatoon game, or it's really a Splatoon spin-off, even got announced, which I'm pretty excited for, and hopefully this stuff is just the start of another good Nintendo era. So going back to the main point of the video, I think the Switch 2 is a pretty good successor to the original Switch from what I've seen, but the games it came out with are something else. But it really does just feel like they wanted to put more focus on the actual console rather than the games, which I guess makes sense because this thing is pretty powerful. If you enjoyed this video, I put out other pretty good videos sometimes, and liking and subscribing would be much appreciated. Goodbye.